Hey, hey, welcome to Love Always Self. I'm Shyra.
Hi, y'all. I'm Karista, and thank you so much for joining us on today's episode of Love Always Self. We are always so grateful to have you here on the show with us today. So, thank you so much for being a part of this with us.
Hello. Oh,
So today, okay, yeah. We have been discussing this topic for a couple of weeks, and we've just kind of allowed it to stew and given us some time to evaluate how we wanted to attack this topic. So today we wanted to discuss shifting timelines. So moving into alternate realities, how do we do this? What is it? Are we making it up? Is it just our imagination? Or is this something real that we can do with our own lives?
oh my goodness. The first time I even heard about this, and if you've listened to any of our previous episodes, I mentioned this guy quite a bit. I listen to him when I fall asleep at night. It's got just such a soothing voice. But his name is Brian Scott. We'll link his channel down below, but he talks about uh shifting realities, I believe is a big topic for him. Matter of fact, I believe his channel is called Reality Revolution. So he talks about this quite a bit, and I've had my own experiences with this, and I'm pretty sure every last one of us has had this experience. And whether
Even if we're not aware of it.
even if we're not aware of it. Exactly. Should I just go into the story that I told you, about that dream? I'm
Sure, go right ahead and then we'll loop back around.
yeah, I'm gonna jump in. So, I had this dream, it was probably, like, 2 years ago, and honestly, like, it's stuck in my head, and it was so realistic. And I believe, when you become aware that you're dreaming, it's called lucid dreaming. Um, so in this dream, I look down and I'm in a car and my husband is driving, except it's not our normal car that we have now or that we did even 2 years ago. And I'm like, where are we? What? Like I'm confused about, I could tell he's like irritated with me. I could feel this like when, you've been drunk before, you have this kind of like, ugh, what's going on? Like you're just not fully like aware. I had that going on, so I could tell that I was intoxicated. And I was like, and at that point in time in my life, I wasn't drinking as much anymore. So I was like, oh, I don't like this feeling. I look down at my legs and I'm like, ooh, my legs are way skinnier than they are. Like, what's going on here? I could feel the texture in my clothes. Like everything was just so vivid. And I remember pulling into this apartment complex, like the gate, and he was at the gate code. And I'm like, where are we going? And he's like, we're going home. And I was like, no, we don't live here. We live in a house out south. And he's like, what are you talking about, Shira? And I'm like, we don't live here. We live in a house out south. And he's like, are you okay? And I'm like, what? And it just dawned on me right then and there. I was like, "Oh my god, I'm dreaming."
Mm.
And I'm like, but I'm still there. I didn't pop out of it and wake up. I'm still in this moment. And I'm like, "Hey, when did we move to this place?" And he's like, "What the heck is," and you could see him like getting like really irritated with me, and he's just like, "What is wrong with you?" He's like, "You've had way too much to drink tonight." And I'm like, "Oh my god." And I was like, "Oh my god, this isn't my reality." And I knew it. And as soon as I made that connection, I woke up. And around the
Mm.
time that I woke up, it was probably like 2 a.m., which is exactly the time that we would have normally back in the day if we were still partiers, probably be coming home from a bar closing, right? And and I was like, "Oh my god, that version of Shira is in so much trouble." Like that's what I was thinking when I woke up.
That version of Steven is going to be taking that version of Shira to go get checked out at the mental health
Right?
facility.
Right? And I was like, "Wow, that is fascinating," like, I mean, and I remember every moment of that. even now, 2 years later from having that dream, you know?
Mhm. Mhm.
And so I've always questioned, is that a different timeline that I was able to tap into in my state of being asleep?
Mhm. Mhm. And you and I have talked about this possibility for, several years, and it's actually something that is discussed frequently in the woo occult, um, you know, taboo
Yeah.
arena, spiritual arena that we're, in, and even more so lately. And interestingly enough, I thought this triggered an increase in thoughts around this when I watched the most recent Doctor Strange movie.
Mm.
And, they acknowledged, again, I get it, it's a movie, we're taking it as make believe. But in the movie, there was a part where in Doctor Strange, if you haven't seen it, sorry, telling
Spoiler
you a little
alert.
bit. um, if you haven't, I recommend it. It's just a really good movie. But there's a point where, he recognizes, or maybe the female character, acknowledges with him that when you are in a dream state, you are connecting with yourself in alternate realities.
Mhm.
And it just kind of like makes you think like, my dreams are pretty wild sometimes. Um, and sometimes I'm really grateful that I wake up in this reality.
Yeah.
But, one of the things that, this is one of those sci-fi things that we've maybe not yet proven on scientific terms. However, we can, reference Einstein's work. He has proven that time is not fixed. Now, our perspective is that it's linear. We live in a causation timeline, so
Yeah.
cause and effect. So things have to happen, and then we see the effects, and then there's another cause, and then there's another effect, and it's in this linear, going from the past forward into the future.
Right.
Uh, but in quantum physics, one of the theories that Einstein was, working on was that that time is not a solid state. It is not
Right.
just one direction. It's actually expanding and contracting all the time. So when we're considering different dimensions, right, or different realities, it's saying like there's parallel realities. So if you look at a book, right, there's a bunch of pages. If you open the book and you're on page 63, there's still a bunch of other pages below that.
Right.
And, you just flip that open and that's similar, right? It's one of the imageries that we can use to kind of help us understand that when we're on this page, we flip it open, we can move to this page.
Interesting. I like that. I like that
Mm-hmm.
visual. It's taking me to the visual I got.
Hmm.
And if you haven't had a chance to listen to that episode, it's episode 64.
Hmm.
And where my guides were showing me this like ring stacks, right? And that ring stack that I describe in that episode was them trying to show me infinity
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
how there's an infinite number of possibilities all playing out at the exact same now moment. And that blew
I
my
just
mind.
So here's another movie, and this is an older movie back, I think, from the 90s. But did you ever see the movie Sliding Doors?
I don't think so.
Okay. So basically, it shows this woman with two options in this one moment to, go towards one guy or live her individual life and end up meeting somebody else. Right. And throughout the entire movie, it's flip flopping back and forth between the realities of these different
Ooh.
choices. And it's very similar. Like, as far as we have infinite numbers of parallel realities that are occurring at every one time because at every moment we're making choices
Mhm.
and every choice is splitting off into a different reality into those different decisions that are made. And
Yeah.
so it's literally like this, again, constantly expanding
Yeah.
time
And
and
it could be
timelines.
And it could even be like something as small as, you know, in this now moment, I've decided to pick up this pen that I'm holding, but there's a completely different now playing out in this now moment timeline where I didn't just do that, or I'm not even
Mhm,
referencing it and I just stayed quiet. Like,
mhm,
it could be as small as something like that, or this morning I chose to put a little bit extra creamer in my coffee, and maybe, there's an alternate timeline on everything is very similar, right? Or it could be
mhm,
completely different. And so it's just infinite. It's a complete infinite number of possibilities. If you think of it at that level, and it blows your mind. And then another really good thing that I became aware of during that channeling moment was how you can pull in knowledge from those timelines that are occurring, and you can
mhm,
bring that into your current now one,
mhm.
where you don't maybe have to learn a certain life lesson, which is
And
great.
that's where we also pull in our connection to our higher self
Mhm.
that is in the future and has already gone through, these decisions.
Right.
And again, infinite number of possibilities of realities, and our higher self has been there, experiencing all these different things and different realities. So it's not like we're connecting to just one higher self. It may just be one source of higher self, but multiple higher selves coming together into one.
Yeah.
Hmm. Sorry, I'm just
Yeah.
visualizing that for the first time.
Isn't that
Um,
great?
and so this is just another encouragement to connect deeper with yourself and really learn how to connect to your higher self and start trusting your intuition and that guidance that you receive.
Oh, man, you just hit something real cool, because that connection, I wanna make sure that our listeners heard you say that, that that's so huge. It's so huge that our intuition is guidance from a multitude of perspectives and lifetimes and timelines and realities, like, and source, and all, even your guides can tap into that particular aspect of your consciousness. And anyway, that is a big thing, and that is one of the biggest keys, in my opinion, of intuition, and following that. And that's very connected to, like, your emotions, and how you're feeling about a certain situation. Maybe that feeling that, like, gut instinct you get, where you kind of like say, like, you want to do something, or somebody invites you to go do something, and you kind of get this like, I don't really want to, and you don't really have like a valid reason for feeling icky about it, but you just
Mhm,
do. Right? Like,
mhm.
it's that instinct of a potential timeline that you might have experienced, where maybe you did that thing and it didn't go very well. And
Mhm.
so your intuition's trying to tell you, you might not want to do that today, but you have a choice.
That's interesting because I was given a recommendation by a medical provider to do a procedure that would create, changes
Mm,
in my physical self, and I am having like major instincts saying, we need to look into alternative, less invasive therapies first. And so I'm going to take
interesting.
that. I'm already in the process of making those decisions myself, to listen to that and take different measures to see if I can actually solve the root problem rather than just putting a really big, potentially destructive band-aid on it.
That's
So
good. That's so good.
one of the things that I really want to make sure that we pull into this conversation is this is really playing into the fact that we are the creators of our own reality.
Yep.
We are powerful beings, and we have the power to create the reality that we want or pull in what we're wanting to experience. It's not as easy as flipping a switch.
No.
No. But it is possible. And I really wanted to talk about how we can put that into practice.
Yeah.
So, one of the first things is recognizing where your thoughts are at right now, right?
Mhm.
Because thoughts are the beginning of our actions. That's like, you don't, most of the time, we don't just act, right? There's thought behind it. Yes, we can have reactions. But when we're making life plans, we'll just go on big grand scale. When we're making life plans, we have thoughts that go into planning, and eventually we create and take actions to try and meet those goals.
Mm-hmm.
And my first question to you is, where are your thoughts at? Are your thoughts in a place of lack, or are they in a place of abundance? Because where our attention goes, that's where our energy flows.
Yeah.
So if we are focused on negativity, on woe is me, on I don't have enough, or I will be happy when in the future, right? Those are places of lack. And they are not promoting movement forward in our soul's growth. Or maybe they are. No, I take that back. They might be, because I'm just going to say wherever you are right now is actually where you need to be. And that's a tough pill to swallow sometimes.
This is so weird because I was just listening to this Lewis Hay recording late last night before bed, and a lot of what you're saying is exactly what I heard.
That's funny.
This keeps happening.
I have not
this week
listened to
especially.
it.
No, I know you haven't. And this is so interesting to me because I feel like sometimes our in timelines, our future selves will, I believe that my future self is probably expanded upon all the things that you and I have continuously been discovering about ourselves and what we're capable of doing and all that. So I'm pretty positive that my future, much smarter and knowledgeable self has sent back information to younger self. And by learning the way to do it, right? Which is by mere thought, may I add, just dawned on me. And and sometimes I feel like she's like, "Hey, I'm gonna just keep sending you repeated situations and confirmations to validate that this is what you need to be paying attention to."
And absolutely, synchronicities, especially like in messages, because those are probably our easiest to interpret. Sometimes when we get those repeated messages, that's like, hey, little call sign, like bing, bing, bing. And yes, so this all starts with thought, right? And what we think about on a regular basis. And when we inundate our senses with negative news, fear-based thinking, a lot of our thoughts are rooted in that fear-based thought process. And fear is one of the strongest emotions in this physical life, and this, third dimensional reality. It is, it's big. So when we are paying attention to fear-based thoughts and feeding it, we are adding energy into that reality, that fear-based reality. And that's what I'm trying to get at with this whole, where is your thoughts? Where are they rooted in? And I'm not saying that we can always ignore the news, but we can protect ourselves and not continue to overindulge ourselves with constant articles and stories about negative happenings. We can take time to love and send compassion and healing thoughts for, some of these big events.
Yeah.
And that is another tool in shifting timelines, because we are focusing our energy rather than on the fear-based story and feeding the fear within ourselves. Oops, sorry. A little boop on the mic. Doing the hand movements.
She's just tapping into it. It's cool.
So when we're feeding those fear-based thoughts, we're feeding into that fearful reality. Whereas when we shift into this love, compassion, I'm sending healing energy, we're feeding that reality. And we're supporting the collective, the world as a whole, in those thoughts and in those energies.
And this is why it's so important, in my mind, and again, take it or leave it as all the things that we say if it resonates with you, right? But this is why I feel it's so important to put into practice this place of knowing where you're at, right?
Mhm.
This thought process of I'm having a reaction to something that's being said to me, and why do I feel like this, right? Because the more self-aware you are about how you're either contributing to the programming that you've had for all this time, or, where you're shifting your ability within to like understand, like how am I doing? Um, I feel like that is a direct impact to your thoughts, and that is those thoughts are your direct impact into your reality.
Yes. Observing yourself is very important in growing yourself.
Mhm.
Absolutely. So, recognizing where our thoughts are at, first of all, choosing what thoughts we're going to feed leads me to being purposeful in what thoughts we will allow to continue versus transmute and let go.
Yeah.
So, being intentional in shifting our mindset, shifting our old patterns into new ones, and being purposeful in where we're placing our energy.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Well said.
Thanks. And I like step by step stuff, it makes things sound easier, but really it just takes practice, a lot of practice, and it's so much worth it. Like it's so much worth it. It is so worth it
Yes.
because it creates a whole new way of being in the now because you're literally reprogramming, these neuron patterns in your mind. So there are strong patterns. If you regularly think negatively, if you're regularly in a fear state, those pathways are strong in your brain.
Yeah.
They are well exercised. So what this is doing is teaching you how to exercise different pathways and train your brain to think differently.
I I love that. And honestly, like as you were saying those things, I was just like sitting here thinking about, our thoughts do shift our timeline. And I'm still going to go back to that, message I heard last night that somehow, some way we are talking about right now. Just cool. Um, the thought that you are having, that you're focusing on, that you're creating your reality with, the timeline that you're jumping into, which is by shifting your focus. And this is something that the guides have taught me, right? That you can focus in on any timeline, right? Um, it doesn't just affect your surroundings and the physical. It also affects your physical body,
Mhm.
and how that can change, that you can change all of that. And I do love this fear part, right? Like, and how we do play into fears quite a bit. And when we're playing into that space, we're focusing in on that timeline that's occurring,
Mhm.
and we're generating that. I heard this story. I'm not gonna tell you the story because I don't want anyone to focus in on this story, but I heard this story, and her message to humanity basically was, very focused on a timeline that this planet's going into that was not great.
Mhm.
And I kept thinking the whole time I was listening to it, I was like, I feel like I'm gonna just wipe this one clean and try not to remember this anymore, because I don't wanna focus on something like that and actually create it.
Mhm.
I don't
Mhm.
wanna be in that particular reality. And yes, I do believe we are that powerful.
Mhm. Mhm.
Oop, see?
Boom. Knocking shit around.
You're not alone.
I think the idea also that our past is set and the future is yet to come is an illusion.
Yeah, it's true.
It's just playing into this illusion that the past and the future are separate
Mm,
also. And, one of the theories in quantum physics is that everything is happening all at once. All things, all past, all future, all present. is happening right now.
Yep. That's what I've been shown. Blew my
Mhm.
mind.
Mm-hmm. So this limitation that we're living is an illusion in this world, in this earth experience. And so we need these things, right? We chose to come here to have soul growth. And maybe some of that growth is in recognizing the awesome infinite creator that we are, and learning how to expand ourselves outside of our perceived limitations and illusion of separation.
And that right there, you guys, is our wonderful episode for you today.
So one other thing that I want to make sure to include is there's no end to our creating.
None whatsoever.
We create and continue to recreate. So again, this is just another tool that we're presenting as possibilities that we can use to continue to recreate ourselves and our desired experiences in this life. So to make this a little bit more tangible, when we are receiving information on maybe how to, okay, so I'm gonna go back to, like, this is old news, right, from 2 years ago, pandemic starting, right? We were given information that was a lot of fear-based information, but we were also given some scientific information. I'm not going to go into the details because there's a lot of back and forth. This is not the point of this.
Right.
All right. So first, there's a thin line, and I'm going to say this, I'm aware, like, as a person in the healthcare field, there's a thin line between being preventive and taking it to a fear-based place.
Mm-hmm.
So some of the recommendations, right, in the pandemic were to wear a mask, social distance, wash your hands. We had a choice to say, okay, I hear that these are the preventive measures. I'm going to go ahead and take that information and use it. But am I going to live in fear and continue to stay inside and not have any social contact whatsoever? Or will I make a decision to adjust how I have social contact? Meet at a park outside, Zoom, which, we've all had that experience a little. It's not nearly as fulfilling as, a good old hug, but we were taught that that may not be safe. So in that time, did we completely disconnect from everybody? Or did we make a decision on how we could navigate through it in a preventive but still loving and joyful manner?
Yeah.
So many of us experienced a lot of fear, including myself, right? I'm not above that.
I did too.
Yeah.
That was a rough year for me. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. For more reasons than just that. And I guess what I'm trying to show here is that where our thoughts are at, it contributes to how our body does feel and how inflamed it is and how dis-ease, how at dis-ease it is. And we had a choice to create a reality that was out of fear, or create a reality that navigated around potential environment, or not environmental, but like invaders.
Invaders. Yeah.
That
Keep thinking of body snatchers. Sorry.
Yeah. So we were given a choice to either, again, be in that fear-based or navigate and promote wellness in a different way. And those choices were creating different realities within our physical body.
Yeah.
Fear-based, more inflammation. Whether that's weight gain, whether that's headaches, whether that's, GI upset, rashes, there's a whole load of, symptoms that can be presented because of stress. Or are we going to still fulfill our needs safely while protecting our body and maybe focusing more on yoga and going on regular walks with people? And, that's promoting a sense of well-being and love and connection and compassion while still being cognizant
Yeah.
of potential negative impacts, right? I don't know if I said that really well, but this is,
But I mean, it's
things I
just,
were thinking in the moment.
yeah, and it's just further proving, the point. And that's that we are, again, powerful beings that can control. I hate the word control, but that we can control. I don't have another word for it. How we think and how we react.
Mhm.
And that changes your physical aspect, that changes the reality around you. That changes like the next move you plan to make.
Mhm.
And
And so now 2 years down the road, like the people that were really stuck in that fear-based place, they're still connected to that, many of them, and they're experiencing some more body discomforts. Whereas the people that were able to choose a way to navigate it without just being stuck in this fear-based place, gosh, we're looking to them right now for
yeah,
guidance on, shifting our perspectives and shifting how we respond versus react.
wouldn't that have been nice 2 years ago?
Hindsight is 2020.
It is.
Um,
It is. I'm not staying there. I'm not staying in that place. I'm over here now.
yeah.
Shift with me, everybody.
So while, this whole idea of, alternate timelines and different realities and, multiple parallel unlimited timelines, yeah, a lot of it sounds very sci-fi, right? Um, but I would encourage you not to limit the possibilities and just consider yourself, in this role. What can you do to create or shift into a preferred reality, a preferred experience,
A preferred timeline.
a preferred timeline? All righty, y'all. Thank you so much for being here, for supporting us. It's just been a consistent joy and just spirit just rising and illuminating
We're
watching
excited.
our audience follow us along. It's humbling, um and it's a beautiful thing. So please, if you haven't, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification on the little bells and the whistles, because this does help us grow. And we, again, really appreciate the support and the love and all of you.
Thank you so, so much. And if you haven't had a chance, I really do encourage that you listen uh back to episode 64 and episode 65. They really do tie into a lot of the things that we discussed today.
Mhm.
So, and thank you very much for listening to us and following us and sending us messages.
I have one more thing before we sign off. The more people that shift into creating these realities filled with love and compassion, the more likely as a collective we are going to shift into that.
Mhm.
Not just because of the thoughts, but because that will be followed by action that supports those creations internally. So we can do this. We can
Let's
create.
co-create.
Yes. World peace, y'all. Don't forget to love first, guys.
And love last.
And love always. You'll have a wonderful day.
I'm going to sit here and laugh for a while. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Hey, listener, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us in this moment. We hope you enjoyed today's episode, and we look forward to our next connection.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow to stay notified of new content from Love Always Self. If you have any questions or topics you'd like for us to discuss, please hit us up on any of our social media platforms linked in the show notes below.
I'm Karista.
And I'm Shyra.
And until next time, remember to love first,
love last,
and love always. Love Always Self podcast is meant for entertainment purposes only. We do not make any warranties about the completeness, reliability, and accuracy of the information presented in this podcast. Any action you choose to take upon the information in this podcast is strictly done so at your own risk, and we will not be held liable for any losses and damages in connection with the use of our podcast. Any and all medical concerns should be addressed with a licensed healthcare provider, as well as any questions that may be derived from the information discussed in this podcast.